and welcome to video 4 of Function Basics in R. So we were talking about, we've done this rescale 0, 1 function, and now let's say we have a change in requirements. So maybe we want to handle columns that have an infinity as one of the values. We wouldn't normally introduce infinity on purpose, but sometimes one's going to come up in our data. So let's look at what happens if we had that in our data set. So I'm going to start with a data set that's just got the numbers 1 through 10 and infinity and try using my rescale function on it. Well, everything goes to 0 except for infinity, which it doesn't know what to do with, so it goes to not a number. So I can modify my function just by adding the finite equals true argument to my range. So when I do that, let's see what's happening here. So when I do that, if I look at the range, let me just set that up, and let's look at the range of x without that argument. Right, would go from 1 to infinity, but if I did it with that argument, so let's now add in finite equals true, and now it goes from 1 to 10. So it only picks the numbers that are finite in that. So now if I did my rescale 0, 1 of my x vector, you see infinity is still going to be at infinity, but everything else gets scaled between 0 and 1. So I could use that as my new function and apply that to whatever I needed to apply it to if I have found out that I may have infinite values in my data set that I want to keep infinite but map everything else between 0 and 1. So now what I want you to do is stop and work a couple of exercises so that you can write your own functions. So you're going to have 2 exercises to do at this point. So the first one is you're going to modify this function that we just wrote here so that I want you to write it so that minus infinity goes to 0 and infinity gets mapped to 1, but the other numbers are scaled in between. So in other words, these would all remain the same, but this would also become 1, and if I had a negative infinity, it would also become 0. Okay? And the second exercise you're going to do is to write a function called both underscore NA. That's the name of your function. It will take 2 vectors of the same length, and it will return the number of positions that have an NA in both vectors. So for instance, if one vector is let's say 0, 1, NA, 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 3, negative 4, NA. So if that's one vector, and the other vector is negative 3, NA, 0, NA, 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 0, 1, then let's see, there's 2 positions that are both NA, right? So your function should return out of this the number 2, because there are 2 places where they are both NA. Okay, so that's what your second function should do. So there's a good little test case for you to run. So remember, you're going to work it out simply first with an example you can work, like something like this, where you can count it by hand. Work it out, the logic. Then put that in a function with the function name and the inputs. Get that function working and test it on your simple case, then test it on a few other cases. Make sure when you knit your document that I can see the results of your tests, okay, when you run your code. Okay, come back and we'll do video 5 and continue with writing functions. Have fun!